school shooting, and 17 children lost their lives. About 30 years ago, people would have never thought about going to the extreme of planning and executing such a violent act on children. Back in the fall in Las Vegas, a man planned another massive shooting that took place at a concert, and he injured and killed a great number of people. What inspires these perpetrators to act out such horrendous crimes? Many people feel the answer to the problem would be to have better gun control. However, I feel it's parents' jobs to inform their children about the dangers of viewing violent media. Because we live in this world that seems to only be getting worse, parents must learn how to control and what media comes into their homes. Um, Most internet and cable providers have parental control options that limit viewing content and control how much time is spent on the internet. Now is the time to take action. We need to have controls in place for media, whether it involves watching television, playing DVDs, gaming consoles, mobile devices such as their phones and tablets and computers. I'm a concerned mother and I'm going to be a grandmother soon. And the times are completely different from when I raised my kids. And I have studied how to keep my grandchildren safe. And in my studies, I've learned that first, exposure leads to violence, and second, parents must limit the time their children spend viewing media and use parental controls devices to control the content. And finally, the importance of seeking out alternative entertainment options. According to the American Academy of Family Physicians, violence occurs daily. Homicide and suicide are the top causes of death for teenagers and young adults. Most families have about four TVs. They have multiple DVD players, radios, gaming consoles, computers, and it all adds up to spending several hours a day viewing this various media. There's also been studies that associate viewing violence on the media that has led to real life aggression. Back in 2000, the FBI released a report that noting that media violence is a risk factor in school shootings. And in 2007, the FCC issued a report on violent programming on television and noting strong evidence that exposure to violence through the media can increase aggressive behavior in children. The result of viewing violence on TV has impacted our children. But the increase of violent video games, where the player controls the character in the game and is rewarded for killing other players, also stimulates the brain to repeat the violent acts. There's an article in the Current Opinion in Psychology. It was titled "The Effects of Violent Media Content on Aggression." And some of the discoveries that were made is recent studies have found similar effects when evaluating the aggression in an interactive setup and assessing desensitization in a psychological manner. It showed that the participants, they had some play a violent shooter game and others play a non-violent video racing game. And there was both excitement, but those who played the aggressive, violent game led them to have more aggressive thoughts and behaviors. Um, and it's a problem in our society. Almost every teenager plays video games, and the studies have shown they spend about 13 hours a week playing games, which is just too much time to be wasted playing games, and they could be doing something more constructive. So, what are some alternatives to watching television and playing video games? Parents can get their kids and teens involved in sports. They can go on walks and bike rides together, take family outings to the park, read a book together, just find a new hobby to do together. Options are endless, but for those who must have their media connections, parents have to help keep their kids safe. And they can do this by considering and discussing movies and video game ratings and the labels and set expectations that guide their choice of content. Exposure can also be limited by removing the TVs and video games, computers, internet connections from the bedrooms, get it out in the open where everyone can see, limit the amount of time spent on the screen, whether it's the TV, watching television, playing games, limit the time. And then use the technology that is available that locks certain channels, that are bad channels, and turns off the computer and TV after spending so much time. Um, we parents, we have to be proactive and protect our children from the dangers of violent media by taking advantage of the parental and monitoring controls. If your kids are dying to see a movie, go co-view it together and then afterwards discuss the content with them and make comparisons to real life situations and consequences. It's up to us parents to control what we allow into our homes. It is time to protect our kids. We need to get our children to become involved in other activities. Replace the time spent in front of the television. Play a game with them. Join a sports team. Go for a bike ride. Go walking together. Sit around talking to each other. Whatever alternative you choose, make sure it cultivates a good relationship and time is being spent away from viewing violent media.